Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
I'm your host, Chris Santamassimo from OGC Solutions, and I'm excited to spend some time with my friend Keith Miller today from the Strategic Factory. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Appreciate it. Glad to be on.
It's always our pleasure. So Keith is the president and the CEO of the Strategic Factory. Maybe we should have got together earlier because we're both running factories. I got the Think Factory, you have Strategic Factory. But
there you go. Exactly.
Yeah. No, but I think your business is really interesting, and that's the purpose of the podcast. Really, is to share some really interesting stories such as yours and what Strategic Factory is doing, what it's done. So talk a little bit about the business and where you got to,
Sure.
Today.
So I'll give you the history of the story. I grew up in South Africa. I was an electrical engineer by education. I went into business doing a lot of automotive, electronics, car stereos, security systems. A lot of crime, a lot of corruption in South Africa. I decided that I was going to move. I bought myself a ticket around the world and I went to visit anyone, anywhere to kind of figure out where I would like to start my new life.
Wow,
I ended up
interesting.
I ended up meeting my wife, in Baltimore, Maryland. And my original boss was actually living in Sydney. So I was kind of picking between those two places and whether she would come there or not. She had already immigrated before from South Africa, did not know her then when she was 2. So she had just said to me, I prefer not to have to leave my family there or here. Why don't you move to Baltimore? If that doesn't work, we can consider Sydney. My aunt at the time was selling Minuteman Press quick print franchises in South Africa. So she introduced me to the local rep who was selling the franchises in America. And long story short, I ended up settling in Baltimore, buying a quick print franchise. It was 800 square feet, 2-person operation. And that's what got me into the industry.
Talk about starting small, but that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And again, just didn't have the resources to do much more than that. So it was a somewhat distressed store. The gentleman had been in it for a long time, looking to retire. And, we really learned at franchise school to print. We could do letterhead, business card, envelopes. That was about what we learned. I then figured out that if you fold the letterhead and print it on 2 sides, you can create a brochure. And one thing led to another, and we just carried on growing and offering services. Did a lot of listening to our customers and hearing what they were asking for, and followed that pursuit of delivering where the market was going. Today we have 165 people. We operate out of 3 facilities in Owings Mills, Maryland, just outside of Baltimore City. We're in the county. We do everything from printing, promotional products, branded apparel, signage, fabricated architectural signage, and then agency services. So the goal is really to be a single point provider for anything a customer is requiring that has their logo or a message or a brand, and helping them get that delivered.
Don't forget direct mail too.
Sure. Part of the print. Yeah.
An important piece of what you do.
Sure.
Let's circle back for a minute. When did you arrive in the United States? What year was that?
I moved here in 99. I bought my franchise at the very end of 99. So I believe I moved in August of 99. I ended up settling in December of 99 and went to school in Farmington, New York, and then got back and got to work. Haven't stopped ever since.
Pretty impressive. That's quite a growth story in a short amount of time, I think, especially for somebody immigrating here.
Yeah. I feel like everyone that immigrates, it takes a good solid 5-6 years just to figure out how the country works and how everything happens. Mm-hmm. Coming from South Africa, everything was metric. I had to figure out imperial and drive on the other side of the road. So there were a lot of challenges in the early days.
I can imagine. But to me, that's, and you said it when we were, talking about what to talk about on the podcast, that it's really the classic, American success story or the, living the American dream.
Yeah. I always joke when people say, how's it going? I'm like, I'm living the American dream. I truly am. I feel like I came to a country, which is the land of opportunity. And if you put in the efforts and work really hard, I firmly believe you can succeed. And we've put in a lot of efforts and worked really hard, made a lot of sacrifices along the way to build what I've managed to build with everybody around us that's helped make this happen. So. Yeah,
to build it from 800 square feet to a couple 100,000 square feet is pretty impressive at this point.
Yeah.
So, when you talk about being a single point provider, that enables you to sort of fan the cards out in front of a customer and say, we can help you in lots of different ways. Does that sort of create synergies within a particular client where you're able to satisfy all of their needs?
It is, the model was originally born when a couple of customers came to us. They had done some acquisitions. They were rolling out, and we'd always, I don't know, not to shun printing, but very early on, I bought a print shop and everyone would be like, why would you buy print? Print is dead. It's not dead. It just keeps changing and changing and changing. And that thought was always in the back of my mind that I have to diversify. I have to figure out how we do more than just print on paper. So every time a customer would be like, hey, can you do a bigger print, like maybe on a poster, or can you do a banner? The answer was always yes. So we got into that large format, wide format printing. Mm-hmm. Then we got into all of the promotional products of putting a logo on some other substrate, whether it be a pen, a mug, notepads, whatever it may be, those type of promotional products. And we've chased that diversification plan as hard and far as we can, making sure that we do end up as that single point provider for our customers. But the validation that we're on the right track came true when a customer of ours came and said, we've acquired 80 other locations. We need to rebrand them. What can you help us get done? And we looked down the list and we're like, we can actually do everything. And they were like, if you really can, and that's true, we could accelerate our timeline because we don't have the internal bandwidth to manage all of these different vendors.
Right.
So if you can get that done, and the statement was, there's going to be one throat to choke and it's going to be yours, we need it done. That really validated that there are customers that are requiring a single point provider for everything that they do. Franchise rollouts are just a great example of that, of, you're opening a store, you've got to get the brand up. It's a consistent brand. We want it done the same way. If we control that brand, do it through our online portals, we really can control the outcome.
Well, you actually answered a question, which is, to what extent the online portal concept really is an important part of your customer experience.
Oh, it's massive. I would say 40% of our orders come through our online portal. That standardizes the entire approach, the approval process, what people are ordering, what they're allowed to order, how they order, how they pay for it. It's really streamlined that whole system.
And it really takes some of the negative part of the human element out of the equation to the extent that people make mistakes or things of that nature. You've really got just the ability to implement a system that works for your particular customer.
Without a doubt. And variations from branding, which is huge. If you give everyone a credit card, they're kind of going to buy whatever they want to buy, where they want to buy it. And that brand starts to deviate from the standard requirements of the brand pretty quickly. Right. We managed to lock that down. So every business card looks the same.
That's interesting. And does it give you where some variability is okay or is important, it gives you that ability as well?
It does, and that's customer driven, right? Some of the customers want their brand the way they want their brand in every aspect, and others have a looser requirement surrounding their brand. Every one of these portals are built, online storefronts are built just in a slightly different variation to be able to facilitate what the customer is looking to achieve.
Yeah. And so what you've done really is to seize upon this idea of account-based marketing and management. What are some of the things you learned along the way that you've been able to perfect to create a good client experience?
I think that it's a challenge in the fact that we started as a small, quick printer and very family run feeling of a company where we could do anything and everything could be custom. Right. And as we're scaling, we're really trying to systematize as much as we can. So it is a very fine balance of saying every customer really is looking for something slightly different. But is 80% of that the same? And can we just do a variation on the last 20? And that really holds true, I believe, that you can actually achieve that. If you're trying to do 100% custom for every person, there's no way you can scale. Or there's no way in our industry, in my opinion, that you can scale.
Yeah, it just slows down the process, really.
Sure.
Right. Just being able to print all those customizations, even if people are doing it themselves. Sure. The change time, the shipping, et cetera, has got to be difficult for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think that consistency among branding is probably just more important for those customers. They got to have the color just right, the branding just right, so that when you walk into one store in New Jersey versus a store in Baltimore, it's going to look the same and the same experience.
Sure. And then you get the approval process too, right? So if you're allowed to order business cards, you can place that order. But you can theoretically put whatever title you want if you're going to go to a big box store and just order your cards, pay for them yourself, and they're off brand, and you've now given yourself a new title. So the titles are locked down. We do a lot of single sign-ons where we understand who the people are, what their title is. pulls all that information from their Active Directory. So it further eliminates the typos, the mistakes, the other bits and pieces like that. They get to see a live proof. They hit submit order. It maybe goes to HR in many cases, who says approved, or it will go to some other purchasing agent or a marketing department who hit that approval button, and then we get that order in a standard format that we can hopefully work on automation on the back end to speed that process up.
So you must have quite the IT staff or the IT department that's handling a lot of these integrations from a tech standpoint.
We do. I mean, we have several people working on that team, and the target for that continually moves as we introduce new software. So the software is just becoming more and more capable, and the requirements are just becoming heavier. So you really have to figure out how to scale into that software for it to be profitable at the end of the day.
Yes, so being a bit of a tech company and a printer at the same time is part of the success story, I think.
I think everyone is fighting that challenge in every industry. You have to embrace that automation, and that IT component is a major part of that.
Right. But I do think that, the automation is maybe good for your people in a sense, because those mundane tasks that no one likes to do are being done by the system, and then maybe it raises up your employees to do better things.
It definitely does, right? You're looking for anything that is a repetitive task, whether it be on a computer screen or in a production environment, that is a low-level task that you can teach automation to do that task. The more complicated things are way more expensive to automate. So that's where you want to keep the human capital, where you can keep that customer experience and the thought logic or the process, or if something has some nuance that you have to work through. That's where we're looking to put the people. We're trying to remove them from those repetitive tasks that just don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and maybe that feeds into another thing that we talked about, which is the fact that you run the company on EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
We do. I mean, as the company's grown, it's just been harder and harder to wrap our arms around the management of the company. And, I think I said to you earlier, I grew up as an electrical engineer at school. I've always liked building things, very mechanically minded.
Right.
Not so much business minded. I never went to school for a business major or how to manage. So getting a system for us to operate on really has been helping us a lot. We're only about 2 years into that EOS journey, but it has given us a format for us to run the business, which everyone can align to. And we're trying our best to be very pure to EOS wherever we possibly can.
Yeah, and it's, for those that don't know EOS, really it's a program that enables you to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, so to speak, and have an action plan to get there.
I mean, it really is an operating system for a company. It's your cadence for meetings. It's what the agenda of those meetings are. It's how are you going to tackle the projects. In EOS, it's called ROCks, which is a 90-day task. So you really start with your 10-year BHAG, back that down to a 3-year goal, a 1-year goal, break the 1 year up into 4 90-day ROCks, and break all the ROCks up into to-dos. So every ROC is made up of 13 to-dos, which is the 13 weeks in that quarter. And provided you get every to-do done, so the ROC should be successful in 90 days, and that ROC may support a bigger ROC. So you're really breaking up these big initiatives into much smaller manageable tasks.
Right.
And much easier to hold everyone accountable, and the meetings are much more productive. A lot of our pain was sitting in these rooms, having meetings, lots of discussion, not a lot of traction, which is one of the EOS books, is how do you get traction?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we follow it as well, as I've said, and it can be a groundbreaker for folks that are looking for a way to scale, as you say, and grow and transform into something bigger and better.
Sure. Very much.
Well, I mean, and just to sum up everything, Keith, I mean, the fact that you're that focused on running things in such an organized and proficient way it's got to provide opportunity for your people as well.
It does, right? I mean, our industry, unfortunately, is very detail driven. You miss one detail, everything on that project's wrong. So the goal is to give people more time to slow down and do it right the first time. We're really striving for a one and done mentality. And as we introduce new products, so it becomes more complicated for us to understand how to deliver on that in that one and done approach. And EOS has just given us some structure to help us get that achieved.
That's a great way to close. I mean, to talk about, Well, maybe the way to close is actually to say, what is your journey in 10 years look like? Where do you think the company's going to be?
Our BHAG is to do $100 million in revenue in the next 9 years. We're a year into that journey. It will require a lot of acquisition, a lot of really good people. At the end of the day, I read a quote the other day that basically said, strategy without good people is for nothing. So it really is, you've got to have really good people on board. We're very, very, very diligent about our culture. Our cultural statements are can do, will do, happy to. We speak to people that have a can do, which is really their ability to do the job. That's somewhat negotiable, where we'll train you to do the job better and we'll help you get there. That the will do and the happy to are non-negotiable. That's your willingness and your attitude when you arrive at work and what you're going to do. We need people that are coachable, and finding people is not an easy task that fit that culture. So we're very, very pedantic about who we hire, how we hire, and what we get done. It's all going to be about how we get the right people in the right seats. So EOS speaks to RPRS, right people, right seats. We're starting with that right people, and we always have been pushing that agenda as hard as we can.
Right.
So provided we can get the people in, I believe our vision and our strategy is appropriate. It's all going to hinge on us getting the right people in the right seats to get that done.
That is the case in every industry at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
This is a great discussion today, Keith. Thanks so much for, sharing a little bit about Strategic Factory and all the great things that you're doing. I would love to have you just tell people where to find you.
Sure. I appreciate being on first and foremost, so thank you for having me on.
Always our pleasure.
Again, we're in Owings Mills, Maryland. Easiest place is probably our website, which is strategicfactory.com. And yeah, we'd welcome the opportunity to help anybody that's looking to get their message out. We'll do some branded merch, swag, promotional products, signage, printing, and direct mail, obviously.
If you can put an ink and logo on something, you guys do it.
Yep.
Fantastic. Good stuff. Well, thanks, Keith. Again, this is Keith Miller, the president and CEO of Strategic Factory in Maryland. We love the conversation. Hope you come back and talk to us about that growth and scaling as it happens over the years.
Sure. Appreciate it. Great. Thanks again. Thanks, Chris.
You bet. And then this is Chris Santomassimo from the Think Factory and OGC Solutions signing off. We'll see you next time.